ROMA came in to have the wipers repaired and ended up with a full restoration. Everything was done on this car in the end. Let me introduce you to ROMA. So it's very twee names for cars, isn't it? But you know, got to be called ROMA. Obviously, it's on UK plates most of the time, but I thought we'd put these back on for the effect. So this is a early 2 litre. Now this is what I'd call a Series 1 2 litre. Now that's a known thing with the Spiders. You have a Series 1 and a Series 2. In the coupes, it's not so well known because the differences between a Series 1 and Series 2 are almost, you know, indistinguishable. You can't really tell. So if we talk about a Spider Series 1, that would be the FIAT Dino Spider with the aluminium dash and the early steering wheel, which is the leather covered steering wheel rather than the wooden steering wheel. They also have a slightly different floor pan for the passenger sort of footwell. They have this sort of strange perforated sheet steel thing underneath. When you open the boot on a Series 1 Spider, you have like a bonnet prop thing that you sort of fold down to hold the boot up, rather than these sort of things that you'd be more used to on all the other Dino Spiders, where you lift it up and it's got this sort of catch that extends telescopically and then clicks into place, and then you lift it up again past that and then it allows it to close. When you get to the coupes, the difference is the pedal box. It has one less bolt in it and they have slightly different smaller pedals. This is shared with the Spider. And you also have a bit of trim on the rear, which is slightly different, which is on the Series 2s is stainless steel. On these it's brass and then chrome plated. Yeah, that's it really. I mean, there's some things like the absence of the Dinaplex. Sometimes they've got, some of the fuel system is plumbed in very slightly differently. It's very subtle little things. The boot floor is slightly different, the boot board, how that's clipped up when you access the spare wheel. Little things, not really important, but it's worth noting. It's worth knowing about these things. So ROMA actually came in, had the wipers fixed, and it sort of grew from there. Rotisserie restoration, you know, everything was done on this car in the end. It arrived with the wipers not working. We fixed those and did some other little jobs, and then the chap said, well, actually, you know, I think we should get the engine out and rebuild it. And I said, well, if we've got the engine out, we should sort out that front area which was damaged. And then it just escalated from there. And he said, actually, I want perfection. Let's just get it all done. And you know, it was a lovely job to do. A real honour to be, you know, given the opportunity to do one properly. So that's what we did. You know, it come apart, it went off and soda blasted, got everything cleaned up, went on the rotisserie and built it up from there. But it actually wasn't too bad. We had some historic damage in the front, which I did before we took it off for blasting actually. But I'd have the front valance off, fix all that up, make a new front cross member, salvage what I could of the rest of it and put it back together again. So that was done first thing before we did the rest of it. But you know, just looking at some of the details on here, what we have, so all coupes have stainless steel bumpers, and throughout the 2.4s and all 2 litre Series 1 and Series 2, it's all the same bumpers. Whereas the Spiders, they're a steel and then chrome plated, and they're different between between 2 litre and 2.4. So that's the original bumper. I knocked all the dents out, linished it up, and then I got my mate Pete to polish it. Come out, beautiful job. Original Dino number plate brackets, managed to find one, put that on it. The grille was fun. That was something I found in Padova on one of my trips out there. New old stock, you know, still in the wrapper, never been fitted to a car, you know, and that had to be bought for ROMA. I said, you know, that deserves that, you know, because these are made of that Mazic metal that corrodes up and gets really bad. And this is this lovely Bertone shape, this sort of lozenge, used on the Mura quite a lot. And in fact, recently someone actually replicated this and used it as a sort of a screen effect on their stand at one of the nice motor shows. I can't remember which one. So this is a very interesting piece of design. And then headlight bezels, I had 2 new old stock ones I got off Mike Elliott years ago, Mike Elliott for Super Performance. And then I found another good pair, which we chromed to match. Fiat badge, that's an original, not reproduction, which I had chrome plated. Now, the reason I had it chrome plated is a lot of people think they're brass and polished. Well, it's made of a sort of coppery brass type material. Originally, these were silver plated, but the silver plating wears off them very quickly, and that's why people think they're, you know, some sort of brassy type stuff, because they polish them up and that's what it looks like. But on the backs of them, you can always see this faint silver. Well, we decided that to silver plate them, it probably wouldn't last very well, so we went with chrome. I think it works all right. I think it looks nice, you know, and we can always find another set and try them in silver if you know, if someone really disagrees with me. Behind here all has to be painted black. So underneath the grille has to be painted black, just where this lip is, and then all back in here, which we've done. You know, otherwise you have the body colour showing through and it doesn't look right. That's just some details on the front, you know, original screws. I had them zinc plated to hold the indicator units on. These are reproduction from Superformance. They're good, but you can see all the joins are in the right place. You know, they're not been fudged with filler. They're the proper thing. About attention to detail. The little separator rubbers. I managed to find a good set of those. They've now been manufactured from patterns I gave to the guys at Superformance. But you know, so you can buy new ones. They're perfect. But I reused original where I could, just in the spirit of it. And so on. That's what we had. That's what we did. We did everything, you know, as we could, to the best we could. You know, this problem with the bodywork, of trying to understand how things should be, it's taken quite a while to work out how some of the details on the body should be, because quite often it's fudged or it's missing or rusted away or badly repaired, you know, that's the thing. So a case in point was the A posts. So when we took ROMA apart, it was actually, you know, rust. Yeah, definitely. There's corrosion we had to deal with, and that A post there on coupes really suffers. So that's the very end of the sill, which turns into the boxing plate, which has the sort of swage holes in it, the perforations, much like I was doing on that Maserati, if you remember. But we had enough of this left to sort of as a good pattern, and you can see this detail here where it joins over a separate piece of metal. You know, I was able to chase that into the you know, the repair section I made. But this little tang, never normally there. That wraps round the drain hole, so it's the drain hole from the air plenums. So yeah, I mean, it was there, so I've been able to replicate it and save it. So that was that. So that's your inner boxing plate. Then here is where your A-post joins to it. So there's your spot welds where I drilled them out. So you can line that up there and you can see how that joins onto there. So that's the lower A-post. So that's what you get. It's all rotted away. And that's your sill joins onto it here. So, but there's enough here to get the shape of it and this indent and everything else. So I was able to replicate that exactly. But that, you know, normally this is missing or it's badly repaired. You know, it's taken a long time to get to a car that had enough of this, that was in good enough condition to reuse. And then that's the wing joiner. This sort of pops on here like that, this little panel. That's where the lower door hinge goes, so you can see the shape that has to go around the lower door hinge. Well, again, that's nearly always missing. There you go. You see I mark them with the chassis number and the car, so I can, you know, remember which one it come off of, so I remember how good a reference point it was. So yeah, these are invaluable, stuff like this. And then again, you know what we were talking about the other day? No paint inside them on that Maserati. Well, that's what I said, no paint inside anything, you know, of that era. They just didn't get in there and paint them. So, you know, inside, that's what you get. So yeah, that's that bit. That gives you a feel of that. Illustrate how much more complicated a coupe is over a Spider. I'll go and grab the same bit off of a Spider and we can compare. And it's exactly the same story of trying to find a good one. Lower A-post strengthener on a Spider. Now that's what you get. And there's a completely different construction of the outer sills on a Spider, but yeah, there we are, no paint again. So yeah, that thing does the same job, and that angle there will be about the same. So you can see that's Bertone's way of doing it. A very elaborate A-post, you know, pressing, you know, with dimples in it, and that's Pininfarina's way of doing it. You know, folded, very simple section. Nothing wrong with the Spiders, but I'm just explaining how much more complicated a coupe is. So there you go, there's my pattern for it, so I can make them, because you can see it has this comes down here, then you have this return here, so that goes down like that and then joins onto goes at a different angle right down the bottom there. But this took years of working on Spiders to find one of these that was in this condition. This was off of the Silver Spider I did, the 2.4. Hugo's car. Yeah, so although it had some corrosion in it, we had some really useful parts that we could, you know, utilise, so we could get that to be just right. And as I said, when you get that opportunity, you make your patterns, and you see, you know, you put your holes in there, and I've marked their 9mm holes when you actually, you know, what they should be. But I've got both of these. You see, I've got that, keep that as a set. I can then replicate as required. It's all right if you're doing an Alpha or an E-Type or a Mini or something, you know, the reproduction panels are available. They're getting to be really good quality. I was looking at a Mini only this week that had new floor pans in it. You know, I mean a whole new clip, the whole thing off of Motor Heritage, British Motor Heritage. You know, new Mini floor in Nigel's one down at Kingswell Coachworks. You know, beautiful job. Put a whole floor in it, and that's, you know, that's wonderful. But you don't get that for these. I have to make everything. And it's that much more difficult because this is all pressed out panels from factory, and although they're coach built, they're sort of assembled like any modern car, all spot welded together, monocoque chassis construction. So that's a very different thing to a hand built car like the Maseratis I work on, and a lot more work to reproduce those panels to make them look like their factory pressings. We'll have a look at that in more detail later, but it's telling, you know, if it's handmade, it's a lot easier to hand make it again. You know? But yeah, anyway, that's just the beginning. Let's have a look at some of the more of it underneath, I reckon. Right, so here we go. We've got a lovely Chromadora wheels. Still in good shape. You can see the Chromadora on there, and our Fiat 14 by 6.5. Remember we talked about these having Dino written on them. Well, obviously they, you know, mostly on the 2 litres they were like this, because you didn't have these on the 246, because the 246 wasn't around at that point. Be a 206, and that had spinners on it, which the wheels were much like what you get on the Dino Spider. With knockoff wheels. Anyway, so that's it. So you don't get that anomaly with these. We've got your lovely hubcaps with your Fiat in it. These are restored. These are the proper ones, not the repro bits. I managed to find a good set and polish them up, get them working again, get them on there. So that's lovely. So pleased with that. And then let's just try and get them off without wrecking them. There we go. And then all the bolts have been replated. They're all as they should be. Again, the proper Fiat bolts, as I've discussed before. You know, all these bolts have got Fiat written on them. They made their own nuts and bolts, and they're all marked. So, you know, it has the proper things throughout, which I normally restore them. I get them replated and use them on things like this, you know. And I've got a degree of stock of them. So on the right sort of better restorations, I can use them. And you know, where things have been replaced over the years, we can put the right stuff back into it. But that's, you know, I mean, they're not all got Fiat written on them. Some don't, and it's knowing where they shouldn't have it written on them. And obviously for sort of run-of-the-mill stuff, it doesn't really matter. But you know, the specific stuff I do keep the same. I keep it as it should be. Right, there we go. That's our wheel off. It's going to be dirty in here because this is being used. You know, this is a car that needs to be driven and be used. So, but we can have a see about what I was talking about this stuff. So we were looking at this panel. That's the end of the sill that turns into boxing plate. That's that little detail I was on about that I had to chase in there. So that's in there as it should be. And here's our little tang that holds our drain. And this is the drain that comes out the plenums. So this is the plenums that does the fresh air that goes into the, you know, inside. So you've got this trunk in here, goes up behind the headlights, and then that's where it gets the air in that goes inside. And then if you get any water ingress into it, it drains out through here. So that little thing is nearly always missing because it's rusted away. And then in behind here is the A post, but you can't really see it. But the reason it rots is because they've got no liner. There's no liner in here. Well, obviously on the Spiders, you have a little liner that bolts in, and these don't. So it gets all the mud in there, and it wrecks it eventually. You know, it wrecks it away. But this is that bit where it should have a little return on it there, which is quite often fudged. If that doesn't have that little return there, going back in, you know, it's all been fudged. And in fact, normally you see great big sort of welds around here where stuff has been done and so on. You know, it's quite ugly, really. But yeah, that's that area, very vulnerable on a coupe. And you know, if you've got rot in there, you know you're going to have rotten wings, you're going to have rotten sills, you know, the whole lot. So that was that. We'll have a quick look at the sills whilst we're here. I'll get it up a bit so we can see a bit better. A jacking point here. We have one at the other end. We'll have a look at that in a minute. This sits underneath that A post area, so it gives it something, you know, gives it some strength. As I say, normally you have a lot of problems in here. So you've got these drain holes here. These are all factory, and then you have these separate drains on here on the outer sills. That should be, you know, that's as they should be. And then as we sort of come back further along, you see we've got another, you know, another drain here, another drain there, drains there. Then you've got these ones, these drainers in here. So this has a little piece that just joins onto there, just a folded section, and then this outer clip comes on here and it's spot welded through there. And then these are drainers again, as I say, they should be there. And they shouldn't be blocked up or sealed up, otherwise it all backs up. So that's where the water goes in behind the rear window, actually comes out and drains out into here, and actually just sits around in here and then comes out here. So that's why they all rot out, you know, and you can't do anything about it, it's the way they are. And then yeah, there's our rear jacking point, that's it. But yeah, you can see drains here. So yeah, that's all been restored as it should be. Again, this area is very vulnerable because all the mud kicks up on it. But you can see, I put the spot welds back in, you know, I've rebuilt the lower edge of this, and you've got another drainer in here. Not quite sure what that's for. It might be for, you know, if you spill battery acid or something, which is why this rots out in the first place. But yeah, this is a factory thing, they're like that. Let's go up. And then if we can get under here and see what we're dealing with. So yeah, this area is always very vulnerable, always broken up. You've got this other sort of reinforced area for jacking up and so on. So yeah, you know, that's all good. Floor pans are all good. Got the heat shields on here that should be here. You know, I'll refurbish them and put them back on. I've made new in the past, but at this one we were okay to reuse what was there. This area is quite often damaged. This, you know, straighten this out best I could. That looks all right. And then this floor pan, you see we have these little drain tanks. This is, you know, how they should be. Now this is where the coupe's different to the Spider. This footwell, this is where you put your feet when you're sat in the back. Now on the Spider you don't have this at all. It's a shortened bit and a different shape entirely. I'll grab one in a minute to show you to illustrate that. But this is where the coupe's longer, where this whole platform is longer. Now you'd call it a platform because that's what they have. You have a Spider platform and a coupe platform. Spider platforms go off to Pininfarina to be finished. Coupe platforms go to Bertone to be finished, and we'll have a look at that, you know, in a minute. But this is the area. So they're extended through here. All the sills, outer sills, are completely different on a coupe to a Spider, and even this area is different. So it's just this panel here is the same, and this stuff, and all these jacking points are the same. But yeah, that's where the extension bit is. So technically you can shorten a coupe and turn it into a Spider, you know, if you wanted to shorten a coupe platform. If you had a really, really rough Spider, it might be worth doing. I'm going to grab a Spider floor pan to show you, to illustrate that. So here is a Spider floor pan. So this area here is where the seat mounts go, which is that shape. You can see that shape there. That shape there is that shape and that shape. So that would join on under that cross member there. That's where that goes. It sits in there like that. So you can see that would sit in there. And you can see how much shorter it is. So that edge there, okay, that edge there, where that joins, joins there. So look how much shorter it is. That's the extension. It's that much shorter a Spider. But all this is the same. You know, that bit's all the same. That bit's all the same. Sills, you know, this bit's the same profile. But yeah, so you can see that drain type thing again there with this pressing. Now, when I make these, I make them identical. I put all that in it. Make them exactly the same, so you can't tell. I've seen a lot of these restored without these pressings in them, and you know, we made floors for it. Well, you didn't make them right, did you? So this is what they should look like. Funny enough, these don't seem to rust too bad on the coupes. The fronts do, and the front floor pan does on a Spider as well. Which, to illustrate that, I'll grab one of them as well. Now, we can't see the front floor on the coupe properly, and the reason being because we've got an exhaust in the way and that heat shield. But this is what we're dealing with. That is that floor pan, and that goes in there like that. So this is what you have, this line here. Now this isn't the whole floor pan because I joined it onto there on the one I was doing. But let's have a look at that. So, right. So, if we can see that impression there, that's where that sort of jacking point area is there, like that. That's where it joins on. So that's that area that is underneath there. You can't see that because this folds up above this area. But this should be in there, and this is what I put in. I put the drainer in and all this swage I put back in. And then that impression through there, that's that chassis rail there. So that bit is that bit, that's the edge there. So that is the front floor. That is the same on a Spider and a coupe. So really I should do a run of these, and then, you know, because they're the same between coupe and Spider, you know, and then do Spider rear floors. I don't think we need to do coupe rear floors. I think there'll be enough, well, they don't give that much trouble. But yeah, maybe one day I'll productionise these and we'll do them. You can see this come out of Spider, and it's rotted from the inside out. It all, you know, obviously it filled up because the roof was leaking and it rotted out. So yeah, you can see how peppered all this is. But on the underneath of this, it actually isn't that peppered. It's very smooth. And this car had all the underseal on it like this, or you know, underseal protection, the factory protection. You couldn't see any of this. We had no idea it was this rot, you know, until we took the interior out. Then I thought, oh, actually, these obviously aren't very good. But underneath it had factory underseal still on it. It looked lovely. So you wouldn't know, you know, looking at one, it would be a bit alarming. You know, you could look at underneath and think, oh, it looks quite good. Find that inside. But yeah, so that's it. These are the sort of factory style exhausts. Still made in Italy the way they used to make them. They're sort of, you see, they're sort of welded round here. So they're like two sort of baking trays put together and then welded around the flange here. It's a very Fiat way of doing things. You know, it's the English stuff doesn't look like this. They have sort of proper cans. And they're nice and they work well. You know, I think they're great. And it's great that you can get a proper reproduction of it. So, you know, I think they're pretty good. I think they're all right. And whilst we're under here, you know, these are Fiat bolts. See what I mean? I've all these replated and reused them, so they've all got the little Fiat on them, and so on. So yeah, that's what we're dealing with. So it is as it should be. And a banjo axle. So yeah, so the cart sprung rear on the 2 litre, you know, is actually very sophisticated. So it's not just the axle bolted onto this cart spring and then flopping around when the spring acts like that. It's actually, that's a pivot point there, and that's a top pivot point there, and you've got another bar going back on here, you see. So effectively, it is like a 4-link. Although it's a cart sprung, it's like a 4-link suspension, and that's why you have the 2 shock absorbers either side. So it is independent of this spring. It's attached to the spring, obviously through that point, but it can move independently like this. You know, it doesn't flex with the spring or try and switch the spring. So it's, you know, so it is quite an elaborate setup, and that is a good setup. It's a good axle, and totally different to the you know, to that independent rear end that they put on the 2.4. You know, completely different, which is 130 based. And these have different brakes as well, but anyway, more of that later. So yeah, limited slip diff on these, as with all Dinos, 2.4s and 2 litres. So yeah, it's anyway, you know, it's dirty under here because it's been used. You know, that's how they're supposed to be used, but that's why they rust. You know, they get the dirt on them and it ruts them out. All you can hope for is enough oil leaks to spray enough over it over time to save it, really, aren't you? That's about the only thing that saves them. But, you know, or that or a dry climate. But yeah, I mean the UK and sorted roads, or Germany and sorted roads like we saw on the Spider, it does take its toll. But yeah, there we are. Well, that's about it, really, isn't it? That's enough of the boring underneath of the car. We'll have a look at some more exciting bits like the engine, shall we? So to open the bonnet on a 2 litre, it's in the glove box itself. So we open the glove box up, and then in there'll be a lever. We'll pop that up, and that's that. On the 2.4s it's not, it's under the dash, and it's on the driver's side. So that's that, and up we come, and there we are. So that's what we're looking at. So refinished this in a crackle, in a sort of hammered finish as it was. This is the factory finish they'd have. Now these early ones have these plenum chambers on them. These are chokes. They're actually like you'd have a choke on the top of a carburettor. So you don't have a choke on the top of these carburettors. You actually have it on here. You have and that's how you rich them. But yeah, we'll show that operating in a minute. The early style distributor cap, early style distributor. This one's had one of Stefan's upgrades, and then we've got the proper Dinoplex with all his upgrade in it. So that's a lovely, lovely bit of kit, as it should be. Although, strictly speaking, these very early cars didn't have a Dinoplex. A lot of it was retrofitted with a Dinoplex. They were worried about hot starting and things like that, so they started fitting the Dinoplex to them later on. So that's it, really. We'll get a shot of this choke in operation, and if I keep the light there, you'll see in here as I operate the flap, obviously with the lever inside, but that's what it does effectively. That'll be the choke operating. You see that flap operating, that's it. And then the other thing on these early ones is you have this throttle cable arrangement, which is different. The later ones have a bar across here and it operates slightly differently. So these are a couple of the little differences with the early cars, and that's it. That's what we got. That's what we got. And a funny thing happened over the course of the weekend, because we started filming this. We started filming this on Friday, and we're finishing off today. So Sunday, I was at Goodwood at the members' meeting, and I'm talking about these lozenges, aren't I? I'm saying about these, and I'm saying about I feel they're a sort of iconic piece of design. Well, I'd like to know about them. So there's a chap there, I thought I'd ask him. So Gordon Murray's there with his T50, and he's got these on the back of it, this shape. So I asked him, where's this come from? Is it a sort of piece of design, what it is? And he said, oh no, it's just a thing. He said, it's not credited to anyone, it's just a thing in design. So that was it. So there you are. Even Gordon Murray doesn't know where it come from. So I thought that was quite funny. There we are. So yeah. That covers most of the Series 1 stuff. There are other things. The timing chains are actually adjusted in a different manner, so that you'll find a different looking cylinder head. And the Series 1 cars have what's called lash caps, which is where you have a little spacer on top of the end of the valve stem, and then the bucket sits on that, and then the cam runs on the bucket. So to adjust them, you have to take the buckets off, which means you got to take the camshafts out. Whereas later ones, you have a sort of biscuit type shim that sits on top of the bucket, which you can prise out in situ. You can use a sort of horseshoe sort of thing. Anyway, it's a different way of doing it. Lash caps are technically better in that it's lighter, so it's a better way of doing it, but a lot more effort for servicing them. It's a lot more work. And I said that earlier way of adjusting the timing changes is that's fine, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not sprung loaded, whereas the later ones are. And then of course the later ones you have to fit the fail-safe to, but of course the early ones is a fail-safe in itself because it's just sort of screwed in. So it's quite a different way of doing things. So that's that. And then the other thing of note is the steering wheel. So this is a Series 1 steering wheel. Now they fit these on the Spider as well as the coupe. This will be leather covered, and then you have this insert here that presses in to hold the leather in, and you have these chrome spokes, so it's quite a different thing to the wood one, which is currently fitted. Well, the wood one's fitted because they wanted to, they were keen to have that style of steering wheel fitted. So that's the early steering wheel. So Series 1, coupes and Spiders should have that. The other thing with the Spider I didn't mention was the engine bays on the very early Spiders is actually body colour, whereas on all these coupes it's in a satin black throughout. All the coupes are that way, but only the very early Spiders, and I'm not sure if it's all Series 1s. I think they deleted it part way through the Series 1 setup. But I'm not entirely sure. But that would be body colour. But then they later went over to the satin black finish like they do on the coupes. And as I said, all 2 litre Spiders have the spin-on wheels with the Rudge style knockoff spinners. But there is an exception to that. The last few chassis numbers apparently had the bolt-on wheels of the coupe. So I don't know what chassis number or how many, but very few cars. And of course they're not as nice because it's really lovely to have the spinners on them. And apparently anything for sort of the Nordic or Scandinavian market, that seemed to have bolt-on wheels. Now I think they didn't like them. I think there was a thing about them having them, because I see it on the Maseratis. You'd have the bolt-on wheel on a Mistral that you'd have from the Quattroporte. They seem to be fitted with them, which is not very nice looking, you know. It's great on the Quattroporte, but not so nice, you know, not like the elegant Veranis. So I don't know if it's a sort of homologation thing or laws out there. But anyway, and that's an aside. Other thing, we've got the little Bertone radiator delete plug here, which is quite a sweet thing. Roma's got this fitted. This is a rare item, you see, with a little Bertone B, which is quite a sweet thing. But yeah, that goes in. But you know, I mean, yeah, who needs a radio in one of these? You can't hear it anyway. And then there we are. And then here we have original literature. So this is your sales brochure. So that's that, and then that's your Dinoplex insert. So that when this brochure came out, it didn't have that. That come on later on when they started fitting Dinoplexes to it. So that was your, you know, all about your Dinoplex. First productionised car with electronic ignition. Brought in from the race cars, and that's where it came from. And there we are. There is Roma. It's all right, beige seats or biscuit coloured seats, but other than that, we're the same colour really, aren't we? So there we are. That's what they look like. So this is the trim I'm saying about, that is in brass and chrome plated, whereas on the later ones, what I call the Series 2 cars, that is in stainless steel. Here's all our pictures of the engine. Now, this is part of what's caused some of this confusion about what colours these engines should be, these cam covers, because of this brochure. And this is obviously just a pre-production engine for photographing, and they finished in this lovely sort of gold, but I don't think that was ever on in the road cars. And a case in point that this isn't a road car engine is these oil filler caps. You know, they don't have them. They have these nice chrome ones, so that's not what they have. This is the early carburetors with this is when you pull the choke out. This cable here goes through and operates those flaps we were looking at, and this just bumps the revs up this bit. This cam goes round, and you can see the early throttle linkage, which I say got a cable going off, which will go off around here, which is we're looking at on the car. So that shows that, and then we can see our extension on the gearbox and so on, the cooling bit. Or you know, and so on, and then this little insert they're showing sort of like the actual racing version of the Dino engine in the race cars, because they're obviously pulling in that lineage there. And here's your early cam chain adjuster. But you can barely see that because it's so small, but that's it. And our oil pump for the thing. But there you go. Look, that's chrome plated, that bit. That's not black, which is what it's finished on a real car. So this is just for show, this engine. It's not a real thing. And there the air boxes on it, and that's black. Well, they're not black, are they? We know that. So this gold stuff, you know, I'm not sure about that. I think it's to do with just the photography. I've done these in crackle black, which I don't think is correct either. But that's an aside. That's the way we're finishing them because it's easy for me to do so. And until I have a concerted you know, until we really know what colour they should be, I'm carrying on like that. They're magnesium, so I feel they need to be treated in something. So that's the way I'm doing them at the minute. But there you go, look, black air filter box. You know, they're not black, are they? We know that. So again, this is for show. Look, there you go, look, blue prop shaft. Anyone ever seen a blue prop shaft? No, they're not. So again, and the shock absorbers, the replacement conies are in red, but the originals were in grey, weren't they? So this is just for marketing purposes. But there's our early steering wheel, so that's correct. Although we seem to have the later switchgear on here, not the early switchgear. So that's an interesting thing. So yeah, that shouldn't be like that. Because bear in mind, this is Series 1. This is the first one. This was made out of the early production stuff. So yeah, I mean, yeah, again, you can see what it would look like with that on. And there it's actually got the Grundig radio in it, which is what would be fitted. And you can see the finish of the interior. Pretty. Yeah, more of the same. Talking about the airflow system, you know, we're talking about how these plenum chambers work. That's where the air comes in and how it transfers for the car, and then it goes out through these flaps. These flaps actually shut under deceleration in the back. and so you don't draw exhaust gases in. And I actually replaced them on it. They're like a sort of rubber bellows thing. I replaced all them because normally they're completely falling apart. Probably bored of me talking about these. I know Gordon Murray was. Anyway, there we are, look. So there we are, there we have it, that's it. Then some specs on there, just to tell you what's what. But yeah, it's a nice piece, isn't it? Nice piece, in good condition. So there we have it, that's it. Here's our yellow and blue, isn't it? Which is very poignant at the moment, those colours, aren't it? Right, so I think that's a nice little overview, brief. Well, I think it's brief. I think there's a lot more to talk about, but you don't want to listen to that. But that's Roma, that's a Series 1. We'll look at a 2.4 another day, and we've, you know, maybe we'll look at a 2 litre Spider another day when we get into one. But yeah, there we are. I think that'll do for tonight. So I'll sign off and say good night.